Hi, my name's Rosie. There are some people who always find some adventures. Well, I'm one of them. I always get involved in some adventures. But one day, I got into a situation that was too strange even for me. Well, one man wanted to buy me, just like that, as if I were a thing or something, or kind of jewelry. That's understandable. Just imagine a man wearing an expensive Gucci suit, a Rolex watch, and a beautiful girl next to him. Perfect, isn't it? You want to know who this bravehead was and why he offered me such a deal? Then make yourself comfortable and watch this video to the end. So, I've always been a very beautiful and attractive girl, thanks to mom and dad. I have nice curly hair, slightly dark skin, and a perfect figure. Many girls envied me because I didn't even put a lot of effort into keeping myself in shape. Somehow, it was given to me by nature. Of course, the boys started paying attention to me at an early age. Even in kindergarten, two of my friends almost got into a fight, deciding who would be my prince at the New Year's ball. When I went to school, this story continued. I got a lot of love confessions and gifts. When I grew up, boys started giving me flowers and constantly asked me out, but I refused everyone. And not because I didn't like anyone. I just didn't have any time. After all, I've always wanted to make the most of this life. I played sports, danced, and I participated in school life. I arranged some performances for elementary school students. How could I find time for a relationship? But I wasn't upset. I just loved my lifestyle, and I was okay without a boyfriend. One spring, our school decided to organize a fair. All the money would be for charity. It was an event where every class was responsible for some kind of entertainment. Some classes arranged tents with delicious food and drinks. That was fascinating. All the money was given to homeless animal shelters. Our class had always been very creative in ideas, so this time we decided to keep our standards too. We brainstormed the craziest and most incredible options. But the idea was quite simple. Since there were more girls in our class and they were all pretty, we decided to take advantage of this and arrange a kissing booth. You know what that is? Well, let me tell you. This is a kind of entertainment. A customer buys a ticket and goes to the kissing booth. This is a closet and cramped room. And what's up there? Kissing, of course. Well, it was up to the customer to decide to kiss or not. But the one who's inside the booth has no right to refuse a kiss to anyone. After all, we get money for this. Of course, some of the girls immediately refused to participate, but me and a couple of my friends supported this idea. Well, it would definitely bring in a lot of money. Besides, we were all quite popular at school. So, if the guys saw our names on the ad, the line would probably be quite long. On the day, we arrived at the place very early to decorate our booth. We had a small dark tent, which was decorated with balloons, hearts, and ribbons on the outside. It looked pretty nice. We agreed we would change with the girls every half hour. After all, this fair was not our only work. We also wanted to be entertained like everyone else. As I was a super attractive girl, I not only worked in the kissing booth, but I also had to help with a concert that was organized by different classes. I also performed in several dance performances. Anyway, this day was very eventful for me, but who in the world knew the most interesting things were yet to come? Before the fair started, our principal came up to me and told me the main sponsor of our school would be at the opening ceremony with his son. As I recall, the sponsor, Mr. Kim, was kinda a big man in the city. He was the head of a large company and a politician. Once his son even went to our school, but he graduated about 4 years ago. Now he was studying at a prestigious college. He wanted to become a successful heir of his daddy's empire. On the one hand, the fact made everyone worry. On the other, we understood we were only school kids, and no one expected us to organize a great event for our city. When Mr. Kim and his son arrived, the principal immediately showed them to his office for a cup of tea. I only caught a glimpse of the young man. When I was in high school, I saw him a few times at events. There were some rumors about him. Many girls were in love with him, but he didn't pay attention to anyone. He was kinda a cold prince, and he didn't have many friends. And not surprisingly, it's quite okay when your dad is one of the richest and most powerful people in the city. A little later, Mr. Kim made a speech at the opening ceremony. He greeted everyone and promised to contribute the total amount for charity. He and his son went for a walk around the fair, and I ran to the booth. Since I was the one who was supposed to start this fascinating attraction, when I got to the tent, there was already customer line there. I saw some guys from high school and even some older guys, likely students. Probably someone invited their friends to the fair, and they decided to have a good time. Before the fair, some girls even asked me if I was afraid to kiss strangers, but I was just surprised. There would be no French kisses or some other stuff. We all knew it would be just fun, and just for fun. So I was sure I'd just have to kiss on the cheek. I heard one of my friends started selling tickets from the outside. I settled back in my chair and waited for the guests to come. It was the first time I took part in anything like this, so I was a little worried. But the customers were funny and friendly. They made me relax and enjoy the process. The younger students and the boys from the middle school were terribly embarrassed and blushed. They laughed loudly when they left the tent. But the older guys tried to persuade me to have a real kiss. But I smiled and said this was possible on a date only. Needless to say, after only half an hour, I already had a big collection of phone numbers. It was kind of funny. After 30 minutes, my friend replaced me and I ran to dance on the stage. I was in such a hurry that when I ran out of the tent, I accidentally bumped into someone. I immediately turned around to apologize and saw I had almost knocked down Johnny, Mr. Kim's son. I was terrified. He dropped his delicious hot dog and it was smashed on the grass. Luckily, Johnny didn't get smeared. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. He didn't react at all. He just stared at me intently and walked on. But I decided I couldn't just leave it like that. So I approached him and apologized. I handed him a ticket to the kissing booth and quickly ran to the stage. On the one hand, I knew it was unlikely a guy like him would go to the kissing booth. On the other, I somehow had to make up for the ruined hot dog. So I performed with a school dance group on the stage. When I looked at my watch, I realized it was my turn to be in the kissing booth again. I hurried there, and I was surprised to see Johnny at the entrance. He was standing next to the line, looking at the ticket in his hand, the one I handed him about an hour ago. I hesitated for a long time because I wanted to approach him again and say something. In the end, I just nodded at him and disappeared into the tent. My friend was very happy to see me, as she said her lips had already gotten tired. Of course, she was joking, but customers had the same excitement for kissing her as they did for me. I saw the line in front of the tent and sighed. But since I supported this idea, I shouldn't complain. I rang the bell, saying, "Next in line, please." Who do you think came into my tent? Right, Johnny. I was surprised to see him again. So I smiled and pointed to the chair in front of me. I don't know what kind of kissing he was hoping for, but when I gave him a light kiss on the cheek, he didn't seem to be satisfied. I tried to stay positive and asked him what was wrong, and that was when I heard Johnny speaking to me for the first time. He said he bought the tickets from all the people in the line for the next half hour. So, for the next 30 minutes, I would only have to kiss him. I was stunned. I didn't even know how to react. My jaw dropped. But Johnny suddenly took the situation into his own hands and said he had an offer for a long-term proposition. Sorry, what kind of proposition are you talking about? Anyway, it turned out he liked me, even when he saw me for the first time at the opening ceremony. He didn't have much experience with girls, but he's used to getting whatever he wants. And I gave him a great idea with my ticket. Anyway, Johnny said he wanted to buy me. I mean, he wanted to pay me to date him. I listened to him, and I thought he was kidding. I almost started looking for a hidden camera, but he looked so calm that I realized he was not joking. He was quite serious about buying himself a girlfriend. Me. Of course, I couldn't just start swearing at him. Insults were not an option. After all, he was a person of a high level. So I decided the best idea would just be to make jokes. That's what I tried to do. I laughed and said the product, me, existed in a single copy and it wasn't for sale. But Johnny said everything in the world can be bought. You just gotta pay the right amount, and people would become whatever you want them to be. And he wasn't joking. Then I seriously told him I wasn't selling myself for any amount in the world. But if he wanted me to be his girlfriend, he could ask me out somewhere first, and then we'll see. Then he offered a wide range of dates, from a romantic dinner in Paris to meeting the Don on the Maldives to... And I was sure if I chose Paris, he would immediately call someone, and just in a couple of hours we would be flying to the French capital. I refused again, saying a date at my favorite coffee shop in our city was enough for me. Then he offered to rent it for the rest of the day, because he didn't want anyone to interrupt us. Seriously, this guy was driving me nuts. I was curious, and I dared to ask him if he always solved his problems with money. He answered he'd been doing it all his life. When he needed some friends, he would simply ask his dad to buy him some cool new toys or a new Xbox, and the guys from his class would gather at his house and have fun. In fact, I knew they were just pretending to be his friends. When he got older and wanted to gain popularity among his peers, it was enough to throw a cool party in his chic mansion with a swimming pool and unlimited amounts of food and drinks. Money was everything. That was Johnny's creed. I must admit, I even felt sorry for him. After all, it was so miserable to live a life where everything around you was fake, insincere, purchased. But I guess he didn't mind. Then he asked me again about the price of the date. And that's where I got mad. I told him I didn't want his money. We could just go wherever I wanted on a date and do whatever I wanted. I could pay for everything myself, just to prove to him you can have a great time in pleasant company without buying anyone. Johnny doubted my suggestion for a while, but he agreed anyway. He asked me to kiss him goodbye again. Then he left the tent, saying he would pick me up tomorrow. I guess you wonder why I agreed. Actually, I liked Johnny. He was totally my type. I mean, his appearance, of course. He had a bad temper, but I was determined to fix it. When I came out of the tent, my friends were already waiting for me outside. They were shocked. They whispered and asked me what Johnny Kim had bought for all the kissing booth tickets, because he was saying no one should kiss my girlfriend. Yeah, this guy is full of surprises. I had to explain everything to the girls and retell our fascinating dialogue in the tent. They didn't want to believe me, but I promised to send them a photo from the date, and they kinda settled down. If you think I was worried about meeting the son of a millionaire and a politician, you're wrong. Because I was determined to make sure he would remember this date for the rest of his life. Of course, he was used to some expensive restaurants, trips, theater, ballet, opera, but I decided I would show him life as it is, with all of its simple joys. So, when he came to pick me up in his expensive Mercedes with a personal driver, I insisted we leave the car at my house and just walk around the city. While we were walking, I found out the longest distance Johnny ever walked was the distance from their country house to the golf club. And even this was rather an exception, because they mostly drove golf carts. As we walked and talked, I could feel Johnny was slowly relaxing, opening up, and talking more and more about himself. In the end, we came to a typical amusement park. Of course, this guy didn't miss the opportunity to call this park a kindergarten, because Disneyland and Port Aventura are much cooler. But I just quickly handed him the cotton candy and dragged him to the roller coaster. He was laughing, shouting, hugging me. Anyway, he behaved like an ordinary guy, and that's why I liked him more and more. After the park, Johnny suggested we go to a restaurant for a meal, but I insisted I choose the place myself again. So I took him to eat the most delicious hot dogs in the world. When Johnny saw the place where they make these hot dogs, he wanted to run away, but I made him stay and try it. Later on, he admitted the street food tasted better than any delicacies from chefs. He even asked for one more. That night, when Johnny walked me home, he pulled a ticket from the kissing booth out of his coat pocket and said he hadn't used all of them and had saved one for the end of our date. It was so romantic. I got emotional and gave Johnny a real kiss. From that day on, we started dating. Johnny realized it was no use trying to buy me and my feelings. So he just tried to be the coolest boyfriend, following my instructions. At first, I was a little worried about how his dad would react to our relationship, but Mr. Kim and his wife were happy their son had a real relationship and feelings that no amount of money in the world could ever buy. Tell me, how would you react if a stranger suddenly offered to buy you? Write your answers in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed my story. Subscribe to the channel to see more videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications to always stay tuned. Bye, everyone.